Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Oh, Mike, well, I'm sorry that you had to fall down a few stairs to get here on time. Listen, guys, I think this is it's awesome. Each and every Monday I get to sit before my family and speak to my community and speak to you guys. Sarah, hello to you. You were, as usual, the first one in. Christina, Mike Brenz, as I said, sorry, buddy, that you had to fall. Hope you're okay. Lloyd's in the house. How you doing, Lloyd? Dwayne, how you doing, my friend? Rob Alspatch. Yeah, baby. Richard Dunlop's with us. Bill, how you doing? Yeah, absolutely. Steve, how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's well. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I do know that the Winter Fish Fest was busy. A lot of last-minute entries, and I can't say enough about that. In fact, I might as well just lead right with that. I hope everyone had a great weekend, and I want to thank everyone who participated in the Winter Fish Fest. It is officially over. It was over at midnight. Thanks for all of your entries and all of your participation. And as I said, I think the biggest takeaway from the Winter Fish Fest this year, in my opinion anyway, was the amount of family involvement. The number of families, and you know, I mean, we can go on. The Ashley family, the Soretti family, the Gilchrist family, the Barnucz family, the Nelson family, the Huck family. There were so many families, and if I've forgotten any of you, I apologize. But there were so many families that were involved. I thought that was really cool. The other thing, too, was the amount of team efforts that I saw. There was a lot of team efforts that took place as well, landing some really big fish. And we're going to get to our winner. It's a bit of a tease, but I'll get to our winner. But one family in particular that I definitely want to give a big shout out thank you to. And I can't say enough about this. And I know the Legacy members who spend a lot of time editing their photos, the Lowen family. My dear Lord, I don't know how many family members there are, but, you know, I don't know how they get them all in the hut first, and I'm sure if every single family member were to drill a hole in the ice, they would probably have to put out warnings that the ice wasn't safe anymore. Because I tell you, the Lowen family, unbelievable how many entries that we got from those folks. So big shout out, thank you to the Lowen family. Can't thank them enough for their involvement, but it's so awesome to see the families. I thought that was really cool. And to me, it was a true testament to what's going on around us. COVID has started to filter itself away, but it's still there, it's still around. And the one thing that we can do and still can continue to do is fish with our families. So the Lowen family definitely hit it out of the park. But as mentioned, there's other families that were involved too. And we can't thank them enough for all of it. And as I said, that kind of support, that kind of participation, it means a lot to the judges. Mike's going to be coming on here and talking about it later on. But big shout out, thank you to all of your family and your involvement. I thought it was really cool. Now, I want to get Anthony, good to see you. Absolutely. Took away no clue. Well, that, as you say, Anthony, we try to do the best kind of promotion as possible to try and get the word out there. But Usually, as one ends, another one begins. So it's not going to be too much longer before CFN is running another one. Peter DeSouza is in the house. Summer teas, absolutely. The weather is definitely going that route. Jim Fowler's in the house. How you doing, Jim? Steve McKinnon, how you doing, my friend? Daniel, yes, the McNeils, another family that were very much a part of our Winter Fish Fest and sent us a lot of stuff. The Gilchrist family, I mean, the list goes on and on. You guys were phenomenal. But again, I'm stunned at the size of fish that was entered as the largest fish in our largest fish category, and Team No Fluke managed to pull it off. They went from Alberta to BC, where you could actually target white sturgeon, and they managed to pull this beast in. Have a look.
From the No Fluke fishing team. There's an 84-inch legal sturgeon. Stay safe and be responsible. Keep it rolling and show me again.
86.
Okay. And we're gonna go right to the release. This one was caught on the new Dynamite sturgeon rigs, and we're just gonna get it right back.
All right, we go.
Incredible to see a fish that big entered. As I said, Dan's 44-incher led up to that. I know Bill Landry got close with some big fish as well, but to Scott Nadeau, and I think that is what I was talking about just a minute ago about the team effort. Dustin was there, Scott Nadeau was there, and of course Bill Allen. And the fact that they managed to pull this off on the last weekend of the event, hats off to them. I think it's incredible, and what a worthy fish. My word. So congrats to Team No Fluke, and I believe Mike's going to be coming on tonight to talk about how we're going to go forward with all the draws. I don't know if it's going to be ready for this coming Tuesday, but definitely next Tuesday. So stay tuned to that. Curtis, your family was involved as well. Again, if there's any families that I've left out, I haven't done so purposely, and my apologies. But as I said, the involvement from our community was incredible. And our sponsors, thank you. And on behalf of CFN, we thank you. Again, just want to pay some respect and send some prayers and good thoughts to our good buddy Rob Cadeau, who's a part of our industry and our community. As mentioned, I don't know if you guys have seen on Facebook, Rob is right now waging his biggest fight with cancer, and his daughter is taking any requests if you want to go see him personally, because I think it's at that time. So I can't think enough. I don't know. As I said, I'm speechless when it comes to Rob. He and I hit it off the minute we met, and he's a close brother, and it's hard to see a friend, a family member go through what he's going through. So let's send some positive thoughts his way, and to the rest of our community. If you are suffering with an ailment or suffering with cancer or COVID or anything else for that matter, keep it positive. Keep warm wishes, and as I said, Rob right now and his family are. It's a struggle, and I think anybody who has seen the last stages of someone fighting cancer knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's not fun. So, as I said, keep your prayers and your thoughts with the Cadeau family. And there's at least two, possibly three major fundraisers that are going on that I want to pay mention to. Of course, Muskie Trader Canada. I believe anybody who has a muskie bait or something that is designated towards muskie, you could set it up and provide it as an auction piece. So the proceeds, again, are going to go to cancer research. I don't know if all of them are, but I believe that's the intent, is that any money raised is going to go towards the cancer research. James Meager has got something set up, I believe, with Tyler Brooks. Again, I'm not 100% sure. And if there are links, please share them. Team Underdog and our buddy Ryan Rambeck from Rytech Marine, they've also set up a fundraiser. I believe it's a trip out, a day out. So they'll be either auctioning that off or selling raffle tickets. Either way, all of the proceeds go towards cancer research. And these are three great fundraisers that will help out in Rob's name. And it's a shame, when you think about all these fundraisers that start, and maybe I'm just speaking off the cuff, but you raise all this money and definitely to help hopefully people in the future, but you think of a guy like Rob or anybody else for that matter that has just passed from cancer, and we do these fundraisers, and the unfortunate thing is the people who we do it in respect to unfortunately aren't going to see the benefits of it. But to be able to run a fundraiser in their name and in their honor, I think is really, really cool. But big shout out to our buddy Rob Cadeau, because as I said, it's not fun. Birthday wishes. We like to do a little bit of a spoof on our birthday wishes to just, a little bit of a lighter side of CFN, if you will. And of course, Ryan, I don't know if you caught this live. I might have to reach out to you, but you did win the lighter side of CFN. There will be a post coming up this Friday, and it will be yet another Scotty pack that will be on the line. This one's a cool one. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing some of the memes and phrases that come out of it. It's really cool. So this Friday, you'll see it posted. It's the lighter side of CFN. Speaking of the lighter side, of course, it is birthday wishes time. And to our buddy Dave Gillis of Wishing I Was Fishing, apparently he spoke his first word today. So congratulations to young Dave on that. Scott Layton, or Layton, I'm not 100% sure how you say that now that I look at it, but Scott Layton, he took his first step today. Yes, all by himself, he took his first step. So happy birthday to Scott. And, of course, his family. Dave Lawrence, I believe he turns 6 tomorrow and just lost his first tooth. So congratulations to Dave and happy birthday to you. And this Wednesday is Red's birthday. And from what I understand, I believe the training wheels are coming off the bike. So congratulations to Red on that. And of course, if you can, flood his messenger with all kinds of birthday wishes. But our good buddy Red Andel, it's his birthday this Wednesday, and a happy Walleye Wednesday it will be. A couple of announcements. Muskie Odyssey, as I mentioned last Monday, is going to be going on the 17th and 18th of April. It starts at 8:30 in the morning and goes till 6. There are going to be numerous presentations, online raffles, and draws and what have you. It is going to be packed with all kinds of great speakers and content. So if muskie is your fish and you're interested, or maybe you're looking to get into muskie, there's going to be a lot of great presentations there. So stay tuned to that. CFN is going to help with the production of it, and we're honored to be a part of that. So as I said, it's really cool. Muskie Odyssey, as I said, April 17th and 18th, which actually is a good segue, of course, for Ladies' Night, which is going to be next week. And my special guest host, Yvonne Brown, will be with me, and a muskie angler herself in Lisa Goodyear. She's going to be joining us and talking muskie. So it's a good prelim to what's going to be coming on the 17th and 18th for Muskie Odyssey with Lisa and Yvonne. So make sure you tune in next Monday. Is Ladies' Night. CFN jerseys, the new ones, they're selling very, very well. And a big shout out, thank you to Richard Dunlop for taking care of that. And anybody who has purchased one, and I believe we're over 30 now. Thanks to everybody. Seeing you guys wear our flag, it's awesome, because that's really what it is. Like you're waving the CFN flag, and God bless you for that. BC Fishing Network, they're continuing their podcast every Wednesday. So it's Eastern Standard Time, 10:30. Their time, I believe, is 7:30. But the BC Fishing Network podcast is going to be returning again on Wednesday. So tune into that. They have some great guests. I believe Dave Babbage, who used to play for Vancouver and a number of other NHL teams, was on last Wednesday. So really cool, and it's awesome to see that. And of course, to all you pages from New Brunswick all the way to BC, thanks for all your efforts in pumping our tires and promoting your community, promoting your community of anglers, as well as the fishing opportunities within your province. Stand-up job. And last but not least, I can't say enough about our legacy members and all that you do. Terry said, I loved the young angler video that was posted on the weekend. Terry, I know he's probably heading to a lake because his fridge was void of all food. It had nothing but bait in it. So I'm assuming he's probably on his way up to Abitibi. So wish you safe travels, and hopefully the fish cooperate once you get there, Terry. But before he left, he made sure he posted a wicked video with all our young CFNers. So awesome. PM, yes, absolutely. Scotty, this year I'm going to target muskie out of the kayak. Steve, awesome, dude. Absolutely awesome. Yes, Red Endel's a fan. Yes, CFN founder. Absolutely, Christina. I think that's awesome, Steve. If you are, you're going to be. They're not an easy fish to target at the best of times, but in a kayak, it's that much more challenging. And I wish you well, my friend. I think that's awesome. Always pulls together in times that, yes, they do. Sarah, you're 100% right. Died of cancer 3 years ago. Keith, I think we all have had someone that my dad did too. I know Kevin just lost. Big Kev just lost his dad to cancer. So yeah, absolutely. Greg Emile auctioned a day out for salmon. So there you go, Jeanette. Good for putting up prayers to. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Prayers for Rob. That's you guys are awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. Can't thank you guys enough for all of that. So let's get to our featured guests, and of course the how-to, the what's what, and the tips, tricks, and techniques section. It doesn't come from me. It comes from our featured speakers, which of course is Big Jim Lawrence and Jason Barnucz. And before we do, we have to play. I think it's my favorite video, definitely my favorite video. And as I said, it gets us in the spirit, and it is, as Peter D'Souza mentioned, it's a bit of a summer tease. Anyway, we'll be bringing in Jim momentarily. Here is a word from our sponsor. There he is, the man of the hour.
What's going on?
You know, and it's funny. Jeanette just says, does anyone reference Jim to CFN like Norm was to Cheers? What an honor that is. Well, always the gun show. But Jeanette, yeah, I like that. I really do like that.
Yeah, I don't drink anymore. So
well, no, absolutely.
I would have been a better Norm if I still drank.
Well, listen, you know, that segue, that video is I truly is my favorite. And I think with the upcoming weather that we're going to be starting to enjoy here in the southern part of Ontario is a teaser. It almost makes you want to pull the shrink wrap off the boat and get it ready
Both
for
wrapped in shrimps?
Yes.
I'll be right over. Tammy, get me the fruit cutter, the spicy cocktail.
It's a tongue twister to say the least, Jim. But yeah, as I said, with the warmer weather coming, buddy, nothing makes you want to get out on that soft water than a video like that. But
yeah, it's funny. A lot of the ice in the last week has gone off the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
You know, where I watched. I was telling a buddy of mine. I watched this guy go down one day, and I was sitting with Tammy having a tea by the waterfront, and we commented about, wow, it's neat that it's frozen all the way across now. You know, basically, you know, I mean, I don't think you would have wanted a seagull walking across it. but it was frozen. And I didn't think that was going to happen this year. Mind you, it was only for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's wide open now. But we actually saw a guy cross-country ski over ice that three days was open water.
Okay.
You know,
So
and you wonder how people drown. Like I actually got my phone in my hand, and I'm ready to dial 911. And somehow he just, I guess the skis spread it out enough, and he knew what he was doing when it came to cross country skiing. Like he had to be going like 5-8 miles an hour on flat snow, but just like about an inch of snow over that brand new ice, and it's all wide open now. Open.
Jim, I think it's probably the best time to bring it up. I know you and I talked about it before we came on. Lake Simcoe has been a busy spot in the last couple of days. We just found out, as Sean tagged me in it before I went live here, that a plane crashed and we lost a member of our community in that plane crash. But we've had countless vehicles go through the ice. We've had people who have unfortunately fell through the ice. John White came on, I believe you said, and said it's over. The season's over. And like you mentioned, I can't think of anybody more in tuned to Lake Simcoe than he is. And if he's saying it's done, you might want to listen.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like I called a buddy of mine today, and I said to him, "Do you think that Beverage would still be good? It's a place that we fish a bay." And he goes to me, "Yeah," but he said, "I wouldn't by the weekend though." He said, "Right now, because it was minus 16 here this morning. It was close to minus 20 up toward Ottawa. So I mean, anything that had got soft got firmed up a good bit. Even in the backyard here, I'm pretty sure you could maybe still drive on from the boat launch. Like it still froze up to the shore good, but you go out to the end of the point here, outside the speed zone, it's wide open again. Yeah. Wide open because we've got good flow because all the snow melted.
Yeah.
So it's put some flow back in the lakes, eh? And I mean the current that runs through here, like you saw how narrow it was.
Yeah.
That's draining the whole Rideau system. So when you cross on the 401 there and you see the Cataraqui River, and the marker buoys are like this in the current.
Wow.
Well, that has to run past my house to get there. So I don't care if there's 20 inches of ice under you. Change it a degree, and it doesn't take long. Pretty cool too. I was telling people on Facebook the other day. A couple of people asked me about it. Right where the Cataraqui River runs under the 401, hugely rich largemouth fishing heritage there. Before they discovered the smallmouths in Lake Ontario, and then before the smallmouths in the last 20 years decided to blossom because of the gobies and a 0.5 degree temperature change and everything else that's out there in the lake. But there had to be 200 plus swans in an area like the size of my backyard. And it's just really cool when you just sort of look and you see that many birds that are that big in amongst them. And those are all just the regular swans. And then about every 20 feet, you would see 2 giant ones. And I think that's trumpeter swans. They're really big ones. Yeah. They're like twice the size of the other ones. It's like scary how big they are.
And I don't know about where you are, Jim, but even in the morning, the amount of bird calling that you hear.
Yeah, it started the end of last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's robins back again. But we had robins here all winter because robins do stay.
Right.
Everybody thinks they all fly south, but they don't. A lot of the young males stay. And they stayed here this year. They disappeared for like a week when it was minus 30. And I don't know if they hanker down or if they moved a little further south because they don't have to go far to go up 5 or 8 degrees. Like if they flew like across the St. Lawrence River, the American side, it's a lot warmer. Maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they just hanker down when it's really cold. But they're all back. My cardinals out the back here. I said to Tammy tonight, we were working on the spring edition of Just Fishing in the office here, and I said to her, I'm just waiting for the cackling to start in the light in the park behind our house from the osprey. Yeah. I haven't heard it yet this year, but like it's still frozen, so the ospreys are probably all hanging out down by Kingston, just waiting to go. It's funny to watch as the creeks on Highway 15. The first creek, like the way I've got 2 swans at every creek, and I'm sure they're the same ones every year because they come right back to the exact same spot. And as the creeks thaw, there's 2 swans. So we're up to the last creek, and that's where my grandkids are, so to speak. I took ownership of these ones. And last year it was funny. They had like 8 or 9 babies. So like when they all grew up and they were still together as a family unit, you see all these things swimming around. It's just giant in this little creek. But I would think by the end of the week here, it's supposed to be up to 9, 10, 11 here and some rain again. So I would think that my swans will be back home, because we do have ones in the backyard, but and they even come and they'll even let you feed them. I'll give them, I just give them like a couple of pieces of popcorn or something. I don't give them anything, like I don't give them a lot of food or anything, just a few bits. But they come into the little bay there because they eat all the leftover weeds, and it's really funny as you watch the ice go back. The swans just follow it because they're getting the fresh weed that they can get underneath the ice as it melts.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's not fresh, but it's left over. I guess it's the freshest of the junk that's left for them to eat. But yeah, really, really cool. You're mentioning about. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we're speaking about, of course, losing ice down this way, and in many areas in Ontario, especially as Bill just mentioned, up in northern Ontario, they still have 18 inches of ice. I know our folks out west. In Saskatchewan, they're probably still in the 36-inch range. Yeah. So unfortunately, we speak based on our environment close to us.
Yeah, this is what's so dangerous about ice fishing now. Is guys go on and post a picture of them, and they've got a ruler, and they show, look, the ice is 11 inches thick here. And the guy looks at that and goes, oh, shit, runs out to the lake and drowns. Doesn't realize.
And the other thing is, too, we have to take into account our weather. And not to mention just warm weather, but for instance, the last couple of days, especially down this way and out your way, Jim, we had some unbelievable wind. And no matter how thick your ice is, and I think Jay was talking about it before we came on, that wind has now pushed whatever safe ice we have to one end of the lake. Keith had mentioned perhaps maybe Cook's Bay would be okay. I don't know. With that wind that we had the last on the weekend, especially Sunday, holy crap. I don't know what kind of shape the ice is going to be in.
Yeah, it really, like I told you, when we used to fish down in Lake Ontario for lake trout there 20 years ago, just east or west of Kingston, it wouldn't be unusual to sit on the ice and you had 10, 12, 13 inches of ice, like black, clear ice, no snow on it. Yeah. And you'd be sitting there, but 2 miles away out through the gap was open water. And you'd be sitting there and the water would be popping up the holes. It would come up like, this high. It would squirt up out of the holes, and that was the waves, the water being pushed under, But you were on so much ice and it really couldn't go anywhere, well, I shouldn't say it can't, because you can't say it never, but generally it never moved or anything, and it was really good solid black ice. But that would happen when it was like minus 30 right in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was a thawing thing or whatever. The ice was still getting thicker. You don't realize the movement of the water underneath the ice. It's one of those things that you're mentioning about Rob Cadeau, and it was funny. I said to him, I said, I'm going to try to get across and see him. When the other day I was messaging back and forth with him, and I said, I wish I could come give you a hug, eh? And he said, well, you know where I am. You just say when. He's about 5 hours away from me, but that's kind of irrelevant. I'm going to find my way over there at the beginning of next week and go say hi to him, because I've known Rob forever. I go back a long way with him, and we never got to fish together. I wish we would have, but there's so many of these things that this happens to people. Like you said earlier, there's so many people like this week we lost like an icon in Smith Falls. We lost Wayne Bennett from Bennett's Bait and Tackle. Wayne had a bad stroke, like I guess it's like 7 years ago now, maybe, and maybe about 6, 7 years ago, and like it was no existence. And I talked to quite a few guys today, including a couple of his grandkids, and like they said, they were really like relieved, like God bless him that he's gone, but laying in a bed barely coherent is no way to live.
No, it's not.
And the way COVID is right now, that they could barely have visitors.
It breaks my heart to think about it.
The last time I saw him, I was standing looking at him in the bed, and the nurse said, Jim, she said, give him a little shake there. I said, I just rolled him out on the floor. She was laughing, eh? And when I said that, I heard a voice say to me, don't you dare roll me out on the floor. And he opened his eyes and he looked at me, eh? And he just had a big shit-eating grin on his face, eh? If you knew Wayne. And he said, Jimmy, I knew you'd come back. Like to see him again, you know?
Yeah.
After you see him, it's a shame. But he's resting now, and it's in the long go, it's good. But man, it just seems in the last few weeks, everybody I talked to has got cancer.
You know, and yeah, I just think it's great that, you know, we're sort of pulling out of COVID and we're starting to get the vaccines, because I tell you, we sort of need an influx of positivity. I know it's been tough. If anything, I could just suggest to everyone, take a breath, because even on social media, you can tell that people are on edge. I know.
I see people that I know
Yeah.
that are. They're absolutely consumed with conspiracy. Like, how many times have we talked about this?
Yeah.
You know, they're posting things. They what about this? I'm scared of this, and they're and like, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit scared. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Like, you and I are different people just by breed. We're going to be happy all the time. We just keep going.
Yeah.
I go on with this, I find something to do, but everybody doesn't have the ability to do that. And that's like, that isn't a weakness. That's just the way you are. And I see more and more things where people are asking for help, and that's really, really cool. Like, I've talked to a few people here in the last couple of weeks. I don't know what it is. I'm like grandpa. I am, but they all, like, I have people call me and pour out their heart to me about, and it's not because they're losing their house or they're broke or anything like that, It's just this is just kills some people because they can't do the things that they want to do,
Yeah, and it's for those who don't suffer from anxiety. I don't want to. I mean, obviously, depression is a whole different issue, but anxiety is definitely the prelude to depression. And some people, unfortunately, and it's an ailment that if you don't understand, you probably will never understand it. But those who do and go through it, I think have probably, hit their peak right about now, because you're just being bombarded by so much. And I tell you, especially down this way, without the ice, and you get into that transition where we're waiting, we're going to start to get cabin fever, and things are going to escalate, and people are going to get more anxious. We all just need to take a breath. And if you are suffering from it, don't hesitate, as Jim just mentioned, to reach out to someone that perhaps maybe deals with it a little bit better, and talk them through it. And
or even if they don't, maybe you reach out. You're having trouble. Talk to someone else that's having trouble.
Yeah.
At least you can both, for sure understand. And I mean, I'm a good listener, a really, really good listener, and I'm not judgmental. If you have a problem, I don't care what it is. I can almost feel like, what was that thing used to be in the newspaper? That woman. Ann Landers or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
Something like that. You write in. Yeah. I don't know. I get all people get in touch with me. I have people I don't even know call me up and ask me crazy things, but it's what it is. What it is.
Amen. So as I mentioned, of course, we're in transition, and we are going, from what was the last ice, say, in our area. I know for others it's different. You're still enjoying a lot of hard water ahead of you, and that's great. But in that transition, Jim, what species of fish would you start to target or look forward to start targeting very soon?
Well, whatever you do, you just got to look shallower.
Yeah.
Because the fish are going to, remember in the fall, I talked about them being where you last fished for them, and them going back and forth. And every time they go out, they don't go back as far. And then they end up in basins, and they end up just, they end up all, deep doesn't mean 60 feet. Deep is relative. If the lake is only 10 feet deep, they might move from living in 4 or 5 down to 7 or 8. It's all relative, and that's what you have to look at. That's just the way that it works with it. But I know a lot of guys right now are really targeting pike.
Yeah.
Because the pike are coming in. Like, I'm sure Pizer, I haven't talked to him for a few days here. I'm sure he'll be into his little lakes where you see them do the ice fishing. Late in the winter, when they go sit on the bank with the fire and eat hot dogs and just wait to get off the ice. They realize when they get off the ice that stopped catching, or they still caught, 30 to 40-inch fish. But when they got off the ice and there was no noise, they started catching like 42 to 46, 48-inch pike.
Yeah.
Those big fish are really cagey. If there's any noise on top of them, and a lot of these, it's not so much if you're fishing in an area where it's wall-to-wall traffic all year.
Yeah.
A lot of these little lakes, the only time that they get to them is by skidoo, and it might be Gordon, only his lake. And he's told me, he goes in, there isn't a track, nobody's been there, so they're the first people in there all winter. And God knows nobody goes there in the summertime because you can't get there unless you fly. Yeah. So, and it's just not pressured. These fish are not used to any noise like that. I have a buddy of mine already told me he was catching crappies last week in close to 20 feet of water in a little lake that he fishes that only goes to about the deepest spots in the low 30s.
Right.
And that's where they've sat for a lot of the winter they've spent there. And last weekend he went out and he was looking around with his electronics, and he couldn't, he just wasn't finding them. He couldn't see anything. And he went up into like 13, 14 feet of water just outside the weeds. What did he find? They were all in there. He said the bite wasn't great, but the fish had moved. The fish had started a little foray toward, back and forth. They move around. It doesn't just take one warm day and they all run in there, right?
Yeah.
And
now I see the walleye are starting to run the Detroit River. Some of our CFNers are out catching and displaying, that run may have started, or it's just at the beginning stages. But obviously, water has gotten to the temperature that's conducive to have them run and get ready to spawn.
It might just be overflow of fish. The damn lake is so full of them, they got to go somewhere.
Jim, you're so right. And the numbers that they talk about, both on this side of the border and that side of the border.
I've heard estimates anywhere from 170 to 200 million plus fish.
Like, holy crap.
Like, even I couldn't catch that many. Get the counter out.
Yeah, on that note, Keith Duster asked a question that he's been dying to ask you. Have you ever had a day where you've gone out and caught nothing, been skunked?
Yeah. It happens. I did it in no, I got one fish that day. That was when Rocky asked me what I was yelling about. He came to me at the weigh-in and he said, like, did you catch a giant fish? It was in a championship in Lake Ontario, and so we weren't in the same boat together. We were fishing apart, for the classic. And I said to him, no. He said, because I saw you jumping up and down yelling. And I said, yeah, it was the first bite that I got all day. It's the first fish I caught. And he looked at me. He said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. I said, I set the hook once all day, and I had the fish. And when I measured it, it was like 12 1/8 of an inch. And it meant that I had never been skunked in a tournament. I never got skunked in a tournament. But yeah, I've had days where I go out. I've had a couple of days in my life where I've gone out in recent years and caught nothing. But see, I go out and I try to jam things to the fish when I'm alone. This will happen when I'm alone, right? And I just try looking offbeat places, because there's nobody in the boat that's going to say, geez, I got to go fish with Jim, and he went and did some stupid thing looking for fish in this place or that, or thought he could catch them in 6 inches of water right against the bank all day, and they obviously weren't there. I'd like to do crazy things like that when I'm alone. I like to learn how to use things better. If I have something I'm weak with, or I think I'm weak, I'll try. I'll just pick a day. I think I talked to you about this before. I used to have paper bag days. I'd bring out a couple of lures, like say I was really rotten fishing this, really rotten fishing this, and like a swim bait. Yeah. I mean, anybody can catch fish with a swim bait, eh? I'd go out, and that's all I'd bring.
Yeah.
3 or 4 rods, different weights, different ways to present it. And I'd learn how to, and, even just going through it all and just learning how to present the bait and get a feel for it makes a huge difference in what you do later. But
speaking of baits, and I forget who it was that asked the question, obviously with walleye, I know there's a bunch of species, and Alicia, she's looking forward to the sucker run. I know people are looking forward to crappie opening up, or at least, them coming into the shallow so they can be targeted. But when it comes to walleye, what would be one of your Favorite for 2021 walleye baits?
You know, jigs, the rhythm waves, that type of stuff, and rattle baits. Like those two things just seem to be, and they're really conducive to where I fish walleyes around here.
Yeah.
Because if I'm fishing them, I'm usually fishing in the St. Lawrence. So a rattle bait, a jig, you know, I might be fishing in 20 feet of water, but it's no problem because you just put on a 3/8 or a half-ounce jig in the current if you have to get down there. But yeah, rattle baits and walleyes, they've really got my heart. They've really got my heart.
And the TN60, well, there's now the TN50, there's the TN70, TN60, the great go-to, especially, you know, during that night bite.
Well, even right in the middle of the daytime, you know, like ripping them, just doing basically, you know, like you just rip them up off the bottom and follow them back down, keep the slack out, so keep reeling a little bit, rip them up off the bottom, you know. And then something else that I really I want to do, I've done years ago, and I want to get back to this year. I was really thinking of some things in recent years that I used to do and I haven't been doing. I want to really make it a point to get out more this year. One thing I want to do is fish sand flats and gravel flats and that outside weed beds with the jigging wrap. You know, and I don't mean vertically. You realize that more jigging wraps are sold for summer use than winter. People don't realialize that.
I didn't know that until the Linders started talking about it.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, ripping those things along the weed, like the edge of the weed, you cast them really, really long. You just give them a little rip, let them go to the bottom, rip them, keep them coming, and they annihilate them. When you know, go watch the Linder you know, angling buzz videos on it. Yeah, we had a thing in the paper where it showed all the lines. The way Al Linder does it from the braid he uses a swivel to go to the fluorocarbon because the lures can spin in the water, so they use a swivel so you don't twist your line. Things like that. But that's something that I would love to do again. I can't wait to get out and, you know, the first time I give it a rip and I bump, the next time you rip it, there's a fish there. Yeah. There's just things that I used to really like doing, and I need to get back to doing more of them because there's been so many things come out you can fish with, but there's been nothing that you could really say was like revolutionary. Yeah. In recent years, you know, there's things out there that are, you know, different. They're tweaks, but you know, like things like you know, ripping a jigging wrap along a gravel flat, a sand flat, things like that. People just won't do that if they try for a few seconds. Now, mind you, I still haven't gotten my shirt yet, but if I'm doing it for 15 minutes and I don't have a bite, I'm going to change.
It'll be on the way tomorrow. And big shout out.
Tomorrow, I've been sitting at the post office freezing every morning.
I'm sorry, Jim. My friend doesn't come into Canada Post till tomorrow. That's usually she helps me out and make sure that the packages get there. So why fix what isn't broken? She's been a huge help. And she always makes sure that they get there. But a big shout out to Steve Shaw, and of course Don for getting that made for you.
Thanks. You know, something else I was thinking a little while ago. I was sitting here, and that's a box. I don't know if you can see it. That's all my hooks, primarily for most of my largemouth bass fishing. Like there's everything in here. There's every kind of hook you could think of, whether you want to. You're fishing plastic worms, you're fishing Senkos with the whatever, some kind of bait like that. There's just every kind of hook in here. You got, you know, some of the ones with the keepers on them, to hold the bait place, things like that. But it's a really good time of year to go through and check your stuff, because I'm telling you, if there's stuff that you want, you could have a hard time getting it this year. You could have a hard time getting it. There's going to be I won't say like a true shortage, but there's going to be a shortage. I know already rods and reels and things. You know, we interrupted the pipeline last year, and it could take a while for it to get back, you know, back in order.
You're 100% right. And you know, some of the go-tos that people are looking forward to casting, like I know Anthony just put up something about the clam leech spoons. Keith Duster, he uses spinner baits. He loves his spinner baits. Christina's got a question. Jim, would you remove one of the hooks when ripping the TN60 so it doesn't get caught up on the line?
No.
Okay. Good to know.
See, that's the thing when I mentioned when you're ripping it, I said keep keep reeling a little bit, just really slowly behind it. Like when you rip it and you're following it back down, you want to just take up a little bit of slack, and that becomes your retrieve speed, how much line you turn until the next time you rip it, eh?
Yeah.
And you don't have to rip it hard. I'm not talking about trying to,
like a hair jerk. Yeah.
Just give it a sweep. Just let it rattle. You'll feel the rod just vibrate. Let it go back down toward the bottom. Reel up a little bit of slack again as you're doing it. But you got to reel the slack as the lure's sinking down, but not enough to pull the lure forward. Just enough that it's still sinking down so it comes back up off the bottom. Because 9 times out of 10, when you go to rip it up again, they'll be there.
Yeah, Jason just posted up a great tip.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That'll help immensely. And if there are any other baits that you guys are looking forward to pitching for walleye in the coming weeks and very soon in the open water and right after spawn when it opens, by all means, post them in the comments so that we can all share in what it is that is your go-to. If you have any secrets, perhaps you might not want to, but as I said, great opportunity to post now some of the stuff that you're going to be looking forward to getting wet and hopefully ripping some lips of some walleye. Beetle spinner, absolutely, Keith.
Funny, there's something that's been around forever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it still catches fish. Yeah, absolutely. Jim, listen, thanks so much as always for doing this. Our half hour always goes so darn quick, my friend, but we really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday, my friend.
Everybody fish safe out there, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
We're all in this together.
Amen.
Take care, guys.
Right on. And Steve Shaw, absolutely, our newest sponsor and newest member to the family, our Y'all Fish Lures, and I can't wait to start casting some of these guys. Some incredible colors, some incredible finishes, and they also rattle themselves, but they are definitely I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. Got a small handful of them given to me by Chris, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they work out this spring. Now, of course, before we bring in our good friend Lawrence Gunther, he asked me to play a video for you guys, and it's not a very long one, so here it is.
But the looking is the last thing. It's the least most interesting stimulus of all the senses. And yet that's the one we're told we should depend on. And it's probably the most objective, least subjective sense of all of us. So if we only interpret our environment through our eyes, we're in a way detaching from the environment.
C'est beau, monsieur.
Lawrence, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well, man.
So again, and I think this is a great segue to something that I'm sure is near and dear to your heart because it's something that you have been dealing with for some time. But of course, I mention it every chance I get that we take the sense of being able to see for granted. And some of what you said in there, please, this is your segue. It's your stage. Explain to us the importance of not just focusing on what you can see, but also some of the other senses.
Yeah, I just want to step this back a bit, to our childhood, right? Like who goes into a store with their parents as a child and touches something and gets told, hey, don't touch.
Yeah.
Don't touch. Put that down. Don't touch things. If you drop it, you have to buy it, right? Things like that. We hear that all the time. So we're told to put our hands in our pocket, keep our hands behind our back, look with our eyes. Don't get close. Don't disturb it. Don't break it. Just observe it. And it becomes a very clinical, a very cold, a very, it's not like we're viewing art. We're just observing like scientists. And if you're trying to figure something out that's not obvious, even with your eyes, it's a disadvantage if you can't use your other senses. And that's the point I'm trying to make with the documentary, What Lies Below. We have these little comments that pop up because this is how I perceive my world. And this is what we're trying to showcase to people is that sometimes you have to suspend your need to see it, to believe it, to actually understand what it is. And I think, you meet these tournament anglers that get on a roll where they've been fishing hard and practicing hard for months and traveling and living in their trucks and fishing every day and giving it their all, sun up to sundown every day. And then at some point, they just can't help but win. They just get on a roll. Now, I'm not a big believer in luck, right? I don't think there's such a thing as a lucky leprechaun or lucky stars or things like that. I think what happens is these anglers get so zoned in ways that go well beyond their ability to see and analyze what they're dealing with. But it's a feeling that they go and they get on the lake. They have this feeling that whether it's the smell or the direction of the wind or the temperature or many other senses, right, that they come into play beyond sight that tell them what to do, give them an idea of how to fish, slow it down, speed it up, shallow, deep, colored lures, monochrome lures, natural colors, just instinctual things that we call instinct that we give these anglers credit for. Now, if we all believe that we all can do this, I'm not saying we can all just go out and win tournament after tournament, but I think as the better you get as an angler, the more this becomes an intuitive thing. And it becomes an intuitive thing because we get connected to the water in some real profound sort of ways that go way back to before we could even speak or draw or write things down or do any of those things. It just was pure instinct on how to survive. And it's in us all. It's in us all. And it allows us to connect, right?
Absolutely. And, again, as Christina mentioned, it's a great perspective that you give us in a lot of, my experience and my passion and love for being out in the outdoors is being able to take it all in. And again, you give us a different perspective for some of us who do rely on our sight, because I love seeing the wildlife. I love seeing the water. I love seeing the trees, and the surroundings. And, I empathize as best I can for someone like yourself who is still able to enjoy the outdoors without having that sense. And I tell you, you give us a renewed sense of appreciation for the outdoors when you do so. And Tony's asking, I have to ask too, that boat that you were putting together, that's one of those boats that folds. Like it's a 3-fold type boat that you have to snap together with the seats and the gunnels and what have you.
Yeah, they come in 8-foot, 10-foot, 12, and 14-foot lengths. That's a 12-foot. It's made in California. It's called a porta boat, stitched together with stainless steel aircraft wire. So there's 4 rigid plastic sections that are stitched together, and you can shoot one of those sections with a 22 short, and it won't go through the plastic. It's that hard. But you unfold it, and then with the 12-foot, you have 3 seats, so that sort of keeps it from folding up again. Then you have a transom board that slides in the back. I love it because when you're going somewhere, you can throw it up on a roof rack like a surfboard or a paddle board or anything like that, or a kayak. It's easy to put on. It's easy to store. If you're towing something else like an RV, you can take it with you, and it's 69 pounds, right? So for me, it just gives me that chance to take my kids out, for me to go out with my dog, and I can bump into things with it. Like, it's not going to hurt anything. It's just plastic, and it's not going to get a hole if I hit a rock or a stump or anything. It just bounces off. It's light, and it's just a beautiful way to connect. And I especially like it because I run electric motors on it. I've tried all sorts of different types of electric motors. I'm always experimenting with electronics. And it's super quiet. It doesn't interfere with your sense of smell, doesn't interfere with your sense of hearing, and it doesn't get you all tensed up like some of these really loud 4-stroke small outboards can. It just shatters your nerves almost. They're so loud, but better now. But the outboard motors can be pretty loud, especially the smaller ones. And so this is just a really nice. To me, it's like a kayak. It's just a beautiful way to be on the water.
I agree. And as Christina has mentioned, the smell of the fresh air, the feelings of the waves, sounds of nature. I think it's probably a big reason why we all go out and enjoy the outdoors. I mean, catching fish is definitely a plus, and it certainly makes the day that much more enjoyable. But just getting out in the outdoors is what it's all about. And as Anthony says, yes, I believe the lucky things contribute with the positivity and positive energy that prevails through the individual. And with Lawrence, my friend, it oozes out of you, as we have found.
Anthony's a poet, and Christine's an artist. Man, this beautiful stuff.
And this
you're
is the
writing.
thing. This is exactly our community. And you
Yeah.
know, it's not just about going out and catching the biggest fish. It's about the whole experience.
Yeah.
And that's truly what we try to personify through CFN is it's the whole experience. As we saw with the Winter Fish Fest, it was just, I mean, I don't know, it tugs at the heartstrings when you see all the families out enjoying their time on the hard water and catching fish and just spending time as a family. It's memories that will last forever. And that's what it's all about, my friend.
I listened to those videos, and it's like the audio is so good, right? That it's like you're there. I can't imagine what it looks like. It must look. These little cameras are so fantastic. You're
right. And as I said, you hear the young voices, the older voices, and you're right. It's amazing. So I'm glad that you took something away from it, and I know a lot of people who have watched them also have done the same, and hopefully we can do it again in our spring competition. It does take a little bit of time and effort, but I'll tell you, our sponsors truly love it. They share the heck out of it, and they're proud to be a part of it, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so you know what? We'll have some more information. That is going to be on April 15th. That documentary is going to air at April 15th, and we're figuring out ways to stream it on Facebook, YouTube. So trying to get it out to as many people as possible. So please feel free to share that information. It's if you're looking for more information, check out the Bluefish News. It just came out today, March 15th issue of the Bluefish News. And first thing when you come to is some information on the teaser, the documentary, where to find it. And we'll keep putting more and more information out there on CFN for sure, and then the news and so on. But there you go.
And you have what you sent me today was a list of topics that are upcoming, and one of the big ones that I sort of took away from, of course, is our constant updates and renewed information when it comes to the Great Lakes, or at least the status of the Great Lakes. Give us a little prelude to where we're at with that.
It's amazing. There's, I think, something like 45 areas of concern in the Great Lakes. 26 are in the United States. 5 we share between Canada and the United States. Those areas overlap the border. And then we have about a 12 or so, I think, in Canada. And no, maybe it works at 42 or something like that. I don't quote me, read the article. But it's interesting. These areas of concerns we're usually situated, near old sawmills or heavy industry, where there's a lot of chemical that was dumped in, is collected in the bottom of the lake or in the mouth of the river, and it needs to be cleaned up or somehow mitigated or addressed. And it takes time. You have to find these things, and you have to figure out how to clean them up, and then you have to get the money to clean them up. And it's not an easy process. And then you have to monitor them afterwards, because just because you think you cleaned it up, maybe you didn't. Maybe you made them worse. Maybe you forgot something. Maybe something else is coming out that you didn't even notice. So there's ongoing monitoring of these areas of concern. So it's like the Gulf of Mexico oil well, right? I mean, they're still working on that 10 years later. It doesn't happen fast. These took, decades to create through industry, and they're going to take time to clean up. But at the end of the news, I put in a little summary of what the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA Fisheries, has been working hard on 16 of these areas of concern. They've invested in to clean up and address. Like I said, they got 26 in the States, so they've got 17 that they're working on right now. And the progress they're making on those areas of concern and on other shoreline and wetland restoration and shoreline naturalization and invasive species, especially with the Asian carp. I mean, there's just an absolute laundry list of what's happening on the American side of the border on the Great Lakes. And on the Canadian side, I'm always dismayed about the very small list of things we're doing, mainly because on the Canadian side of the Great Lakes, it's Ontario. It's one province. On the American side, I think there's 7 or 8 states. So they spread the love, and they got the federal government. We've got Ontario and Ottawa. So it's it's a lot to put on one province's shoulders and one federal government, but we need to step it up a bit. And so at the end of that list, there's a call to action, with the stimulation package that's going to be in the next budget. We're talking about building roads, bridges, putting people back to work, right? So there's an opportunity there to express your desire to say, hey, maybe we can put some of this money into working on the Great Lakes, because that's probably one of the most valuable assets we have as a country, is that the world's largest assembly of fresh water in the world. And one of them is the largest lake in the world, Lake Superior. So if we could convince the government to use some of that stimulation money to take into consideration these areas of concern and the wetlands and fix some of this stuff that's just been waiting to be fixed, waiting to be addressed. I think that would be fantastic. There's a call to action there. And then Scotty brought up another one.
Well, before we get to that, because you're
All right.
100% right. Before we get to that, I want to mention it because this is another one that always becomes prevalent, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Bill just mentioned it, is the amount of salt pollution that seems to find its way back into our waterways. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of some of the concerns that we're seeing that have been either put in our media or at least expressed to us through Facebook and other social media platforms?
Yeah, you'll also see in the Bluefish News, there's an article from the Ottawa Riverkeeper, and they quote some of this data. So when you mix salt with water, when it melts and it runs down to the end of our driveway and into the gutter and into the storm drain, it goes into the rivers, right? Storm drains, most often, they don't go to sewage systems, sewage treatment plants, unless you live. But if you live anywhere near a river or lake, it's going right into the river or the lake, that untreated. And that becomes very, the salt dissolves, it creates a chloride, and that becomes toxic at various levels. And it's amazing. I mean, they're finding levels in the rivers around Ottawa where these storm drains empty out that are 1,000 times the acceptable level. 1,000 times, right? And what they're finding in the Great Lakes, overall in the Great Lakes, is that every year the salinity level of the Great Lakes notches up a little bit. And that's not from acid rain, and that's not from anything coming out of smokestacks. That's coming from our love of using salt to melt ice and snow on roads. Yeah. And so we're going to pay the price. Maybe not us, but our children, or more likely our grandchildren. If we keep doing this, they're going to have a Great Lakes that are just not going to be healthy and conducive to life, because at some point nothing can live in that. Nothing can live in that. It's toxic, and it's just it's going to become like the Salt Lake City, right? Just a dead lake.
Well, and we brought to light with the help of Dave McKay out in the Picton area. I think one of the issues too that we have to get better at is how we store some of our rock salt that we are putting on our roads and shipping to other areas of Ontario and anywhere else for that matter. But Bay of Quinte, well known for its walleye and all other fisheries, crappie, pike, what have you. But it is a trophy fishery, a unique fishery, and a very vibrant fishery. And why you would pile that much rock salt that close to the water's edge was mind-blowing to me. Now, I do believe that there has been some efforts that have seen them improve some of the, settling ponds and what have you. I know they cover it up so the leaching doesn't magnify, the amount of loading that goes into the bay. But either way, the fact that it's stored so darn close, they found a need to have to move it a little bit further away and back from the water's edge. But they did that through political pressure and putting pressure on our politicians to get it right. Before we get too further, there's a couple questions here that I want to get to. Jeanette has asked, what can we do as far northerners to be a part of the cleanups in our lakes we fish, not just shoreline cleanups, but what can we do better as Northern Ontarians to keep our lakes clean?
we can all just use kitty litter, sand, fine gravel. If you have cottage property, if you're near any sort of watershed, any sort of streams or rivers, and all that's, we all know where that all goes, right? It all collects into the lake. Instead of using salt and to melt all the time, and this goes for everybody, urban, rural, anybody, you just get some kitty litter and just sprinkle that in, and just be careful. I mean, it sometimes you have to take some risk, but it has to be, you have to measure that risk. I mean, there's lots of communities in the far north that don't salt anything, right? You just studded tires and you just drive on snow and you walk on snow, and that's how you do it. But for some reason, we've decided that we can't tolerate that in the more southern areas. So it's, But the other thing is, not chemicals, how we deal with what we put down the drains in our homes, in the storm drains and things like that. We need to be really a lot more conscientious about things like that. Even if they're septic systems, we need to be careful about that. And just because it's organic doesn't mean it's not toxic. There's lots of organic cleaners out there that are very toxic.
100%. Christina asked a question last week, didn't get a response. Someone told her that there was a paddlefish found in Lake Superior.
Wow.
Anything about this when researching? Lawrence, have you heard anything about this?
No, but I'm going to look into it now. I'm adding it to my list.
There you go. Fantastic. And Victoria, absolutely. Victoria ordered water-only paint kit and fish stencils for sidewalks. Help my kids do their part too. It was something that we did. I remember even as a kid, we would go around and paint the catch basins, or at least close to the catch basins, a yellow or blue fish to signify that, this water does eventually go, especially the storm management. We're doing a better job of collecting it and letting it settle and letting nature sort of do its thing. But when we get these, 100-year rains every 6 months in the summertime, or at least that's how it seems, the amount of nutrient loading that goes on definitely increases. And we're seeing it in areas like Lake Erie and some of our other shallow water lakes. So we definitely we all have to do our part in keeping our clean, not just Southern Ontario, Northern Ontario, but all of us.
Yeah. One more tip on that is, fertilizing lawns. We're going to have the melt soon, but just because the snow is gone, wait until the soil unfreezes before you put the fertilizer down. Because if you put your fertilizer down when the soil is still frozen and it rains, it just washes away. It doesn't go into the ground. It doesn't wash into the soil. It just washes across the soil into the drains. And all your fertilizer, all that money you spent on fertilizer is now going to cause algae in your lake. So wait until the soil thaws, and then give it a soft rain, a nice gentle rain. That's just put it out before that. It dissolves it. It has a chance to sink into into your lawn without getting washed away. You just watch the weather and just time it perfectly.
That's so cool. Victoria, thanks for bringing that up. And you're right, Jay, I didn't realize it was still a thing, although I still see them all over the roads. I don't actually see anybody doing the painting.
I know. Who's doing that? We should do that.
The Yellowfish Road program with Trout Unlimited Canada. I see a video. I see someone, Victoria, I would love to see your family do a video, and as her kids call it, and I think this is cool.
I love it.
Responsible graffiti.
Yeah.
I like
Love
that.
it. Love
like
it.
that. Responsible.
Share it. Where do you get these stencils and the kind of paint? Let's get that information. Let's share it around. I'll put it in the news next time as well.
Yeah, Jason's come up with a great idea. CFN and Trout Unlimited partnership, perhaps.
Yeah.
But definitely. Now, of course, when we talk about all this runoff, it's hard not to talk about our wetlands, as you mentioned, and of course, sometimes the implications of decisions that are made by our politicians. And we all sort of had a crooked eyebrow when we heard about conservation authorities not being, talked to, discussed, or allowed to be a part of some of the decision-making when it came to land use, or at least land rezoning. And we're seeing it on Duffins Creek, a perfect example of this, where it seems as if they're going to be bulldozing, or at least it's been allowed to by our Ontario government to bulldoze a section of wetland for I think it's a Walmart. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a Walmart. But is this just an example, Lawrence, of what is to come with our conservation authorities not being a part of these decisions?
Yeah, so step back a bit. There's the OMB, Ontario Management Board. That's gone. I was talking to a real estate agent today about this, and that's gone. So now if you're a developer and you want to do something with some land, and you're not getting the answers you like from your municipality, the regional zoning committee, the conservation authority, if there's any sort of sensitive areas, and any wetland in Southern Ontario is considered now protected. Anything, any bit of wetland. And if you don't like what you're hearing, then you can go, your appeal is to go to the Minister of Municipalities and Housing. And they can override the decision of the municipality and the conservation board and issue an MZO, a ministerial zoning order that is unappealable, that doesn't have to be published, that can be issued without any stakeholder consultation. So basically what we've got here in the news now, right? We got this one that's going to be a Walmart fulfillment center. So I guess it's, one of these big sort of packaging, unboxing trucks coming and going, a big parking lot, people coming in, thousands of people coming to work there to fill boxes, trucks coming, trucks leaving, but no actual shopping. So, why would Walmart want to build this on a piece of land that has wetlands in it? Two wetlands on this piece of property that they want to cover over with this big fulfillment center. You can imagine the size of the property, all the parking lot and everything. It's all going to be paved over, right? So they want the cheapest land they can find. And of course, land that has wetland on it is the cheapest you can buy, because if you can't develop it, it's not really worth much to anyone else except nature. So, but nature's not going to pay you for it. So it's sort of, if you can sell that piece of land to a Walmart and then they can get an MZO and build a big center on it, they've just scored big time. There's another one in Pickering. This is involving 2 10-hectare wetland areas in Pickering. These are the two largest areas of wetland on the north shore of Lake Ontario. And they've received an MZO, so that those wetlands will disappear soon as well. And that'll be another development. And they're saying, why do they have to do that when they could just go across the road and pay a little bit more for land that can be developed? Why do they have to buy this cheap land right here on the shore and ruin the two largest remaining wetlands on the north shore of Lake Ontario in Pickering? Right? So it's just greed. It's pure and simple greed to make profits at the expense of our wetlands. 72% of the wetlands in Southern Ontario are gone since we, arrived in Canada and started farming and doing all the rest of the stuff we've been doing for the last few hundred years. So that's a sizable reduction, and now it's going to continue. So this is problematic. So there's another link that Scotty put me onto. So I asked Jason if he could pop that up on the chat, maybe if he's got that message or not. But it's another one of these letters you can just fill in quickly on the website, add your name. It'll be sent to your MP, a member of a legislative assembly, and the minister saying, hey, I don't really appreciate this stuff. And I think this is a law now. So they're doing it. So what we need to do is put pressure on them to maybe reverse that law. I think we don't have any other choice. We have to express our disappointment in that.
Absolutely. And really, we have to get involved because, once a wetland is gone, Lawrence, does it ever come back?
Well, how do you create a wetland? I mean, how do you find the animals and all the critters and everything that was there? And who would do it, right? I mean, look, I've seen conservation authorities there in Ontario where they've traded wetland in exchange for development of other restoration projects. So they said to a developer who maybe wanted to, develop a 400-hectare subdivision, and in the middle there's a small wet area that's not big, it's not significant, where it's holding up a large project, and they'll horse trade. They'll say, look, okay, you do that, but we need you to come over here and fix this massive problem over here. And it's going to involve, 1,000 dump trucks and excavation and a lot of cost and equipment. But if you want that property and you want to disappear that small wetland, you're going to have to do something that's 10 times better than what that wetland was providing. And they did that horse trading. They did that. But to take the 2 largest areas of wetland on the North Shore of Lake Ontario, you can't horse trade with that. What are you going to do to make up for that? What are you going to do to make up for that? There's no making up for that.
No, 100%. So, that link that Jason has shared with us, make sure you go to that and have your voice. Make sure your voice is heard. We may be a small group watching tonight. We've got 20, 29, 30 people watching. But, as Steve says, you pay your taxes. You have every right. You vote these people in. They're supposed to be representing you. And if there's something you don't like, do so in a manner that they'll listen. Obviously, that part has to be done now on our behalf, because unfortunately our conservation authorities are not being asked to be a part of the decision making. So it is what it is. Now, on your Feel the Bite segment, Lawrence, what are we going to talk about tonight?
I just wanted to talk about the way, we're coming up to the big boys and girls fishing rod time, right? We're going to put away the children rod, the ice fishing rods, and we're going to get the casting rods out. And I always find it interesting when I fish with women versus men and how they hold their fishing rod. And I wonder, why are women sometimes so much more effective at feeling the bite and working cover with their sense of feel? And I think it comes down to the way we hold the rod. There's a tendency to want to hold that fishing rod as if we were holding a club, as if we were going hunting and we needed this club. It was our weapon. And you need to be ready to rumble, right? Good grip, be ready. And but what happens when you white knuckle something like a steering wheel, or in stress, or you're anxious? You grip it harder. You get what they call white knuckles. Your hand goes numb because the blood flow is not going into the hand. So that's why you're getting the white knuckles. And without the blood flow, you lose your sense of feel. So I think it's so important that we not grip our fishing rods. And I think women are have more experience with their hands doing things that are more finesse, and just from the way we've been raised traditionally. And they look at the fishing rod more as an implement, as a tool. And they treat it like a tool, which is what it is. It is a tool. And instead of gripping it, they hold it. And it's hard to unlearn, but I think if we all tried, and this is why it's so important to have a properly balanced rod and reel. And if you think, you have all these different types of rods and lengths of rods, and we only fish one type of reel, this is where the different sizes of reels come in. And why we have, 1,500s, 2,500s, 3,000, 4,000s, 5,000s. It's not always about the amount of line, how fast they can be reeled, the strength of the drag. The most important thing is just getting that balance right. Because if you're not going to grip it, if you're going to hold it, you want that balance to just be perfect. So when you're holding it, it's just not tipping down at the front of your hand, causing strain on your front finger there, and a blood flow stoppage. Or you're not, it's butt heavy. You want that just the perfect balance all the time. That perfect balance just adds so much sensitivity because you don't have to grip it. Now, I have to admit, I do this, and I've almost lost so many rods because also you get that one time where you'll just get a really big bite, and the rod will almost come out of your hand. So you have to have a bit of reaction ability. You have to be able to react. There's no doubt about it. Don't be dozing. Don't be, dreaming when you're doing this, because you could lose your rod, but you will also catch a lot more fish just because any subtle differences. And I remember Dave Mercer saying this, cranking spinner baits. And he said he could feel a fish coming up behind a spinner bait and taking his spinner bait before he actually hooked the fish. He said, because when they come up behind it, they're pushing water as they swim up behind it. And then the spinnerbait moves forward And then it's an absence of feeling, right? And I think that happens a lot when we're retrieving slowly. Fish come in aggressively from behind. I mean, when they're coming from the side, it's not a big issue. But when they're coming from behind, they're pushing that bait towards you before they actually grab it and turn and swim sideways. Even when they grab it, they're still swimming towards you. So it's an absence of feel that's the indicator. So it's super important that you have that balance, because you want to be able to feel that the diminishment of the pull of the lure. It's just as important as the pull of the lure when the fish bites. So
there's some great tips that are coming up here. Rachel mentioned that she holds her index finger out to the length of the rod so she can feel the blank. And I think a lot of us, especially if we're finesse fishing, do that. But as you're saying, like, don't hold it like it's a baseball bat and you're trying to swing for the fences. Back off on the grip, and perhaps as you've mentioned, that maybe ladies have this down pat a little bit more of us men, because we are holding it like it's
hammers,
our mortgage payment or our last investment in fishing. But yeah, I agree. Especially when I'm jigging or I'm doing that technique that Gussie did that I found out about. I'll back off on how tight I grip the rod, so that you do feel those nuances, if you will. But yes, what you're describing about feeling the hit before it actually happens, especially if you're swimming a paddle tail or a swim bait, I 100% agree. You can feel that force or the lack of drag from the lure, because it's being pushed forward by the fish, either playing with it, opening its mouth to ingest it, or what have you. But some really cool tips that you're offering us here tonight.
Thanks. Yeah, always fun to reflect on things we don't think about, because I always read articles about fishing tips, and I love reading it, and everything is really well described by most anglers until the bite, and then it's always like, it feels different. And then, that's it. That's about as descriptive as many of these anglers get. That's getting better. But, I think, well, maybe some of these writers, which are mostly men, maybe they just don't know how to write about their feelings, right? Maybe that's an issue. They were never taught to talk about their feelings.
Oh, yeah. I think we're all getting better at that.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. But it's interesting. Try to articulate that. Try to understand in your mind, like, what was it? It wasn't just a fluke. It wasn't just like, oh my God, also I got a fish on. Okay, like, what happened there? What happened just before? And I think we'll become more aware. You can call it second sense or intuition or a hunch or whatever you call it, but it's caused by something. And if we can start to understand it and articulate it, then we'll become better at it.
And as Victoria says, it's our spidey senses. 100% agree, Victoria. But Mike, you hit the nail on the head. And I'll be honest with you, it almost defeats the purpose of ice fishing. And I hate having to wear gloves. And unfortunately, working construction, I've had frostbite in my hands so many times. So even I can feel when it drops below 5 degrees out, because I feel it right away in my hands. But I hate wearing gloves, because you lose all the sensitivity. You're literally just jigging and hoping that you get that, distinct tell. Because you're never going to feel a light bite, and especially if you're going after panfish or smaller species of fish. I mean, you might as well not even bother if you want.
Well, that's the big Jim's talk earlier in the winter about the spring bobbers, on the end of those rods, and some of the Shimano, some of those Shimano ice fishing rods, the tips are so sensitive and they paint them different colors. So yeah, it's a visual sport. You can fish with your big mittens on, you're fishing with your eyes, but it can be a little bit, I don't know, but I mean, I think for a lot of people, they find it a little bit boring looking at that rod tip if nothing's happening.
Absolutely. Well, listen, as always, Lawrence, you bring a wealth of information and you keep us up to date on what's going on in all of our water bodies, whether it's in our backyard or across the pond. I look forward to some of your updates and of course, Bluefish Canada News. There are some great segments there that have some great links. So I invite all of you to go over to Bluefish Canada so that you can get up to date with all the many topics that our good buddy Lawrence is discussing.
Thanks for having me, Scotty. Thanks everyone for taking the time to listen to me today.
Right on, buddy. We'll see you next Monday, my friend. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, Scotty. You too, buddy.
All right, dude. Well, before we bring in Jay, of course, we have to get to a word for his sponsor. But again, for everyone who is joining us tonight, thanks so much for doing so. We look forward to doing this each and every week. But before we do, here is a word from J-Dog's sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Can change the world. I like it.
The only thing I should change is my cup, because when you drink it out of your Berkeley Gulp Turbis cup and you got a bottle of this hanging on your desk, you got to make sure you keep this over here. But maybe that's my secret. I don't know.
Well, listen, and you might want to share that with the rest of us, because lately you've been catching, along with the rest of the family, you've been catching some serious fish. Those perch that you hauled in on the weekend, holy heifers.
Well, I have to say that Trevor's a little grumpy right now because Dad finally got big fish of the day.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so he's already talking a little trash last night about he wants to have a sucker contest. So he's already thinking of how to, because let's face honestly, the last 5 or 6 trips where we've put an honest effort and didn't have the girls, we're just the guys, and we're just going to fish hard and focus on fishing. And he's outfished me. I've caught lots of numbers, but I don't care about numbers. I'm all about biggest fish. And he has outfished me, and I got him one time.
Wow. Well, listen, and everybody wants a chance at a shot at the title, as they say.
That's right. That's right.
Every once in a while, it's nice to defend it. So yeah, good for you.
Now I will say this. So we went out on Saturday. We decided. So we talked before the show, and you talked to Big Jim about some of the weather patterns that are going on, and so I looked at the weather forecast on Friday. I'm lying. I look at the weather forecast 20 times each day. Okay, so as the weekend was coming, I sat there and I said, okay, there's 2 things I want to do this week. I'm either going to go ice fishing or I'm going to go for spring walleye on the Thames. But what happened this particular week is we got the spring freshet. We got some rain last week, not a ton of rain, but all the snow cover we got this winter, in the headwaters of the Thames, so up north of Woodstock, it was just all coming down. And so I'm looking at the hydrograph and I'm like, it is not going to drop enough by the weekend to be really fishable. You can always fish. Like who are we kidding? But I do like to put things in my favor. So I decided, Trevor, let's just get up Saturday morning, get up early and go. Now, you leave early in the morning when you get to Tim Hortons and they're like, we aren't serving breakfast yet. So we got to Timmy's at 3:45 in the morning.
Are they even serving coffee at that point?
They had coffee, and Trevor has a new favorite sandwich, the turkey bacon club. He actually likes that. So, but at 4 in the morning, you're pretty hungry. And we had a good laugh because the guy was like, have a nice night. And as we're pulling out of the drive-thru, and I'm like, it's 4 a.m., man. It's not night. Yeah. Anyways.
Sun's almost right there.
Yeah. So we got up to Lake Simcoe, and we went to our first access point, and the ice wasn't safe. I think the ice offshore was, but the shore ice was not. It had been banged up from vehicles coming on and off the ice. And it had froze over that night. It was minus 12 when we got there at sunrise, which was about, we got there about 6:15 in the morning at Jackson's Point. It was froze over. And we had to drive around. We checked a bunch of access points and it didn't look safe. And we finally found one, saw some guys going out, but thought, you know what, we're going to go try it. had my suit on, had my picks, I brought the spud for the first time in a few weeks, and we went out. Everywhere we went, we found 8, 10, 12 inches of ice, but there were some pressure cracks. They weren't that wide, a couple feet wide, but I guarantee you that wind on Sunday opened those up some more. And, last ice is upon us for Lake Simcoe. And now, just so everyone knows, I did hear all the forecasts and all the chaos that was going on Friday night up on Lake Simcoe. I was going nowhere near those places. The places I was going was more protected. But I did say to Trevor that we might go up there and not fish. We might just take in a 4-hour, 5-hour round trip to Lake Simcoe to not fish. I said that's the gamble that we took. And, I tell a lot of folks that, we've had a lot of success this winter, but we don't always catch them. And a lot of the successes, we still go and we try. And, Jim talked about getting skunked. We've been skunked, man. We've had some tough days.
If you're a true angler, there has never been a day that you haven't gone out and got skunked. I mean, listen, it happens to all of us. I think you're a more believable angler. You're a truthful angler.
Yeah.
If you admit that, you know what, we have those days. I think all of us have.
Yeah. And we got very lucky. We actually went out and we hiked. The ice was glare ice, so cleats were a must. Ran into the Retrowskis, which was great. Met up with them, so the 4 of us went out, and we ended up meeting up with Dave Chong and one of his buddies, like way out. Like, I don't want to say where we were, but I would never have, like, I don't know. Think about Lake Simcoe. I don't go there that often, so every time I go out there, I'm fishing a new area. Like, I love to explore new lakes, and Lake Simcoe is so vast that every time I go, it's new. Does that make sense? Like, because I'm going to a new spot and I'm going to a new area, and I want to try and break it down. But it was great spending a morning fishing with Dave and his buddy and talking about big perch. And, and I said to Trevor while we're fishing together, and by the way, Trevor's flasher, right, doesn't work. So him and I were buddy. Like, and after Dad's singing and goofing off with him all day, he's like, I am never breaking my flasher ever again. He goes, I will never fish with you like this again. I said, you will remember this till I am in the ground. You will remember Dad goofing off with you on Lake Simcoe, making up remixes to songs based on fishing lures that we're using. By the way, the Eagle song Desperado sounds like vibrato, if you just want to know. We had a lot of fun with that.
Like it.
I did it. But, fishing with Dave, we weren't like fishing beside Dave. Dave was in our area. We were talking to Dave. The guy's a Lake Simcoe legend. And I said to Trevor, think about this, man. You're 13 years old. You love fishing. And this is somebody that you idolize, and you're fishing 50 feet from him, So if you don't catch a fish today, you've learned tons. And that's what fishing is about. It's about the learning process. Yeah. I caught a perch that was just shy of 13, and I called it 13 and a half. I guess it was like 13 and 3/4 inches. If I would have done the stretch the tail, and I wasn't, I'm just like, that's how big it is.
Yeah.
But in the end, you're sharing time with friends, and you're learning, right? You're learning so much. I learn every time I go out, man. If I'm not learning, I'm not having a good time. So a little bit of a recap. We only got 10 fish that day. I burned through my Milwaukee 9 amp hour battery on that day. So that means I easily drilled over 100 holes. Easily 100 holes. And on my phone told me that we did 7.5 kilometers walking.
Good for you.
And we weren't that far out, I'll be honest, but that's going hole to hole. So we had holes, trying to stay on top of schools. We're texting each other. Schools are moving through. Like, we worked, man. We worked. And I was a bag of crap yesterday with that time change. I was done. Like, I was up. By the time we went to bed, I was almost up like 20 hours. And time change, right off yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. It affects everybody. We were talking about it at work today. And really, at the end of the day, it's only an hour. It's only an hour, but the days seem a lot longer because it's a lot lighter out, a lot longer.
Wonderful.
But yeah, eventually we're going to get into those spring and summer days that are going to be the 12, 14, 16 hours of light, which we're all craving to have right about now. But as
with all of that recap, I have to give a shout out to Alicia Retrowski because she sustained an injury while we were out there. She slipped on the ice, banged up her knee. She had quite the little spill. And then picture all that walking that I just talked about, the same. We were part of the same little group all day. We fished from, 7 a.m. until 4 p.m. And she did that on a bum knee. So kudos to Alicia for toughing it out. And she didn't catch a perch. Like, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough fishing, but I don't know, man. Like the areas we were fishing, I'm after big perch. I don't care about numbers. I want big, and that's what we were after. But I sent you a picture. So tomorrow's Stephanie's birthday, so we did bring perch home for Stephanie, and she got her perch. She got her bait to go beer batter perch, which was her birthday request from Dad, and I did it yesterday, so I don't have to. Cooking fish is a bit of an ordeal to do that after work on a weeknight. Like, it's not. I do it, but it's kind of a Sunday thing. So we did that, and so she's happy that her birthday has been extended for like 3 days because she's celebrating every day.
Well, happy birthday, Steph, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed a fish fry, courtesy of your dad, and the rest of the family also did as well. But yeah, I mean, as I said, Jay, at the top when I was discussing some of the families, yours was one of them that was very prevalent in the Winter Fish Fest, and a big shout out to all of your family members. From your wife right down.
I shared the picture Steve did, the mock-up he did with us with the family today, and thanks very much, Steve. Dude, you just awesome stuff, buddy. I shared that at supper, and Stephanie was she was so tickled to be like included in that. And, she's like, I said, well, you're pretty diehard angler, right? She's like, oh yeah, I'm pretty diehard,
I love
even though she admits, though, she goes, I like ice fishing. Dad, I really like ice fishing now. It's warm in the hut. There's lots of snacks, and I catch lots of fish. Like, but that's how Stephanie enjoys. So if any of those variables are not met, so she has to be warm, be fed, and catching lots of fish. Otherwise, she doesn't want to go ice fishing.
Well, listen, and Steph, you're not alone. There's a lot of anglers like that. Don't feel as if you're one in a million. There's lots of anglers like that, especially the snacks part. Holy crap, man! There's
now, most of those variables I don't meet every day when I'm out ice fishing. That's for sure. Like, usually I'm cold. I don't mind fishing, and I like fishing outside. I like hole hopping. I don't mind being cold, but usually it's cold. We never eat, and we also don't catch a lot of fish sometimes. So I would say majority of our trips would not meet Stephanie's her expectations, we'll call it. So
now, speaking of the trifecta, because Victoria, she tried to get out on the weekend to get her trifecta. I know Trevor got his. Did Steph get a trifecta as well?
No. So I have to actually, I don't know if I've told you this. So we talked about the CFN Winterfest, and she said to me a few weeks ago, she said, Dad, I won the summer contest last year. I won that really nice fishing rod. So I don't want to enter it. I would not want to win something that someone else could have got. So I'm being truthful. That was her answer. She's plotting the demise of every rock bass in the lake, by the way, when we get up there in July with that fishing rod at her. She said, Dad, I don't want to enter. She said, I got, and she, trust me, she reminds Trevor weekly at least about the custom fishing rod that she won.
Wow.
That he didn't. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, give her a hug for me, because that kind of unselfish, that's just unbelievable. Wow. Yeah. Good on you, Steph.
Yeah. That's just how she is, man. Heart on her sleeve. She's not competitive like her brother is. Fishing for Stephanie is about family. It's about just having fun.
Steph, you are a true CFNer, because that's exactly what it's all about for us.
I'm telling you, like Trevor's like me. He's competitive and he gets stubborn and stuff, but she is just That's just how she is. That's how she is. She doesn't care if she catches fish some days. So, her biggest concern is, Dad, can I do a word search? Can I bring my word search out when we're fishing? Because if I get bored, I want to do a word search. Like this is what goes in her mind. That's how she is, man. She just wants to be there hanging out. So
a true gem indeed, Christine.
Yeah.
So I did notice that you posted the next, and I don't know, like you have so many species that you target, but you made a post today on Facebook that the steelhead are running. Is that
so sometimes when I'm driving home on nice days, I just kind of let the fish tell me what I'm gonna do, and I kind of just took a little right, took a little left, and there's a couple spots I like to check on the way home, and it's all sanctuary water. Like these, you cannot fish there till the fourth Saturday of April. And sure enough, and I thought the water clarity wasn't great, but there they were. There was 2 or 3 males building a red. So the females built a red, but the males were there. They were jostling with each other, and it's cold. Like we just had our freshet, so and there's not as many fish at this spot as I've seen before. But hey, man, they were good size. Like the ones I saw, they were pushing double-digit steelhead. I was impressed how big they were. It was pretty impressive. So that and I'm not quite ready to go steelheading yet, but man, I love seeing fish. So I took a little. Literally, that spot is, I don't know, 20 minutes from my house. Now it's all private property. I was actually standing on a bridge, so a lot of the water around here is private. It's farmland, and you need permission to get on there. So a lot of those fish, which is sad for fishing sometimes, but those fish get to spawn uninterrupted. And and I think with all that's gone on there were so many people that were fishing last fall. I think give the fish a little bit of a chance, because
you're right. We talked about it at great length that some of these like for instance the Ganaraska, you couldn't fish it. So all of the other smaller tributaries got hit that much harder and put a lot of pressure on these fish. Now, hopefully it was a great spawn in our Ganaraska River because people weren't able to target those fish. I only hope, because it was a slaughter everywhere else. Well,
and I actually had a couple, I put a post up there in the chat about fishing regulations, because so I'm in zone 16. That's where we are down here. And just a reminder for anglers, like a lot of our tributaries are not the major ones, like the Thames and the Sydenham and stuff. Like walleye closes, you can still go fish for suckers and catfish, but there's a bunch of tributaries along Lake Erie that are closed to fishing right now. Like they are sanctuaries. You cannot fish them until trout opener, and just because you're not targeting trout, you still can't fish there. And so it's important to know your fish sanctuaries. And I think, as last year at this time, Scotty, like we're 1 year from COVID right now, right? So it was a year ago today, I was catching walleye on the Thames River in Delaware, right? And then I took like a 1 month hiatus from fishing.
Yeah.
And so people are going to get out over the next month and go fishing. And like you said with Jim, the long range forecast looks fantastic, right?
Absolutely.
So people are going to be out. Know where you can and can't fish. It's a good time to reflect. And as people have more time on their hands, they're doing more fishing there, and they're trying to catch different species and different like water bodies. Check the regs. Check the regs to make sure you're in the right area doing the right thing. COs usually don't take it easy on you if you can't plead ignorance. And take it from a guy, I have no problem admitting this. When I was 12 on March break, I went fishing in a brook trout stream not far from here.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better. I rode my bike out there, left my bike in the ditch. That was flooding, man. I was up to my waist in spring water, no waders, just 12 years old. And a CO stopped and basically verbally dragged me out of the creek and read me the riot act. I didn't get charged, but just be aware that people just need to be know what the regulations are. I hate to see people to get caught in trouble out there because they're not doing it intentionally. I believe majority are not. I believe there are some that do it intentionally, and we see them. And and the COs are out. There was a Facebook thread today that I was kind of stumbled across, and talking about Whiteman's Creek, and the COs are pretty ruthless in some places, especially like Whiteman's. So don't try, and you will get caught. You will get caught. They're not everywhere, but COs are like OPP, and I've heard them say this before. It's fishing. We're not going to catch everyone, but we'll catch some. So just don't take a chance.
And as Jay has mentioned, of course, knowing the zones, knowing the regs, knowing what's open and closed is really, really important. Not just because you don't want to break the law, but the reason these areas are closed, of course, is for the sake of the fish. So to make sure, and we're ensuring the future of our fisheries, pay heed to all of these zones and these closures, because this, as Jay mentioned, is the most crucial time in the existence of fish and their life cycle, because it is the spawn, and a majority of species are spawning in the spring, as we all know. Some species spawn in the fall, but this, I would say, is the prelim right now to a lot of species that will begin spawning as the water starts to warm up, and those closures are crucial to ensure their vitality.
And there's so much opportunity out there that you don't have to fish in those areas. So I'm talking about Zone 16, which is the inland part of southern and western Ontario. But Zone 19, most of the fish we're talking about, they're open year round, right? Walleye, steelhead, northern pike, open year round. So if you can get out onto the river, or even shore fishing on the river, or shore fishing into Zone 19, which is Lake Erie, in most places you're good. There are some sanctuaries, but not very many. So there's lots of opportunity. Just don't fish inland until trout season opens, and just be aware of what they are. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, you're 100% right. In some cases, the laws and designated areas change, so it's good to keep up to date. Absolutely. Good.
It is. Know the regulations in your area, because they don't change much, but they do change. And if there's been an update, you want to be aware of what that update is. So speaking of updates and laws, I shared this with you earlier today, and I thought it was really cool.
Yes.
So in the U.S. now, basically, if you're running a fishing boat, like a recreational fishing boat, I think it's 26 feet and less, you are legally required to have your kill switch tethered to you. Legally required to have an operating kill switch. I think the U.S. has had enough of people falling out of boats and boats killing people or injuring people. I think it's great. That is fantastic news.
And as I said to you, I would have thought that it was part, if it's on the motor, no different than those life jackets that have the CO tubes. If it's in the boat, you have to be wearing it. I thought if it's on the motor or on the throttle, it has to be attached to the operator. But you're right. Sometimes we just take it for granted that it is a rule, and now hopefully we'll save some lives by making it one.
And if you read the nuances of their regulation, you don't have to have it on if you're idling. I think there's a speed limit associated with it, but definitely, that's huge news. Huge news, I think. So.
I agree, and we've seen enough of it on Facebook. I believe it was a shotgun start to a tournament. Guy got a little bit too close. He was in the wake of several other boats, and sometimes when you're up and all you have is the back skeg and a little part of the back end of the boat in the water, that can get awfully rocky. And as it did for that angler, he found himself on the shoreline real quick and in a mess of trouble. Not to mention,
I've seen, man, I've been in enough awkward, scary, whatever word you want to use, situation just because of my job. It's nothing that I've intended to do, but I do have to work in different weather conditions that sometimes it's not unsafe, but definitely when it's windy out and rocking, you got to be careful out there. And I know that I'm big on using a kill switch. Now I'm used to wearing a PFD all the time. Like I have an inflatable PFD on constantly, and even the kids are so trained to having a PFD on, like they won't get in a boat without one. Like they'll ask, like it's like a seatbelt to them, right? Yeah. And that's what Heather and I have always been with the kids. And and we have lots of life jackets. In fact, I give people life jackets. Like if our kids outgrow a PFD, and I know of a friend who's got a child or a niece or grandchild, I'll ask them, do you want to have it? Because it's still a good condition. Kids outgrow things so quickly. I just pass them on to somebody else. Like I have a whole collection of PFDs in the garage, So just wear it. But that kill switch is one people don't think a lot about. And I'll go back to last summer when Trevor got his Pleasure Craft operator's card, and the boat we use up at my buddy's cottage, which we rent, he's allowed to operate because it's a 40 horse. Trevor is of the age you can do 40 horse and less. So I took him out. We did some like driver's ed around the lake, right? And at one point, I showed him how to put the tether on. It's a tether, which I really like the tether. Mm-hmm. Instead of clipping it to your life jacket, I like how there's like a neoprene band. Mm-hmm. It's a tiller on this one. Well, later that night, we were idling away from the dock, and Stephanie says, well, Dad, why does Trevor have to wear that and you don't? And I just didn't and I'm like, well, Stephanie, she called me on it, right? So now Stephanie is Miss Safety. If you ever meet her, she is little Miss Safety. And I said, sorry, Stephanie, you're right. I should put that on. And I did. And, it's just something that we need to have. Steve Shaw's asking, how long are PFDs good for? So, yeah. Steve, the rule that I follow is, and take good care of your PFDs. We pay good money for these things, especially when you get into the inflatables. If you get like the best ones out there, which are the pressurized inflatables. So if you fall into the water, they don't go off automatically. So there's the pull ones. There's the automatic, which have like the Alka-Seltzer tablet that fires the pin, and then there's the hydrostatic ones, which has a pressure sensor, which has to be submerged for, I think it's 3 seconds under the water, then it goes off. The way we do it, the way I've been told from Coast Guard, because we replace PFDs at work pretty regularly, it's the label. As long as the label's in good shape, that's number one. And if you're using one of the inflatables, on the cartridge, it'll have an expiry date on the cartridge, just like your fire extinguishers do and other things. So check the expiry dates. But if it's a good old-fashioned foam PFD, my understanding is as long as the label is legible, you're good. But a lot of anglers don't wear their PFDs. They keep them in their rod locker or under the boat, and your boat gets moisture and mildew, and the label is the first thing to go. And if you can't read that font to know the specs of your PFD, it's no longer eligible, and you have to replace it. That's been my understanding.
Now, Christina's looking for a life jacket, or PFD, as we call it, which is a personal flotation device. What are some of the tips you can offer in purchasing one?
And for buying for proper youth PFD. So I got to say, I'm a big fan of the Mustang brand. They're Canadian made. They do a lot of their own testing in Canada. I'm not sponsored by Mustang, but I really have faith in their products. So they have a wide variety of PFDs available. And I believe that once you're over 80 or 90 pounds, there's a threshold where you're considered like a small adult, no longer youth. And so, but Mustang makes PFDs for like every size person out there and every range of price you want to spend. So everything from a typical bare bones PFD, they have some great ones. Like some of the new angling PFDs, they look like a fishing vest. They got pockets and cords. So like if you're into kayak fishing, or heck, you just want a PFD that stores stuff. Like Trevor loves wearing I have a kayak PFD when I was doing a lot of kayak guiding, and it's got pockets. It's like a fishing vest. It is the greatest PFD to wear when you're out in a kayak or a canoe, because you can store your stuff. But there's so much out there, and I really recommend Mustang, but there are other good brands out there too. And, check out their website and reach out to local dealers. And if they don't have it, they'll probably order it in for you. The best place to get PFDs is not usually at a tackle shop. It's usually at a good boating place. So in Simcoe, we got Proctor Marine, which is a a big marina dealer in Simcoe, Ontario. If I'm going to go buy a PFD, I'm going to go buy it there. In Hamilton, there's Brewers Marine. So a good marina will have a lot of PFD selection, whereas I find a lot of tackle shops don't carry PFDs as often.
And usually if you go to, say, Canadian Tire, they'll have one line of all the different sizes. So if you don't necessarily like that style, you're not going to get the luxury of being able to pick and choose.
Because boating is so popular now with families, a lot of marinas are tailoring their PFD selection to families.
Yep, absolutely. Self-inflate when you hit the water, or pour type for use. Which one do you like the best?
Oh, if I'm gonna get I'm gonna get self-inflate for whoever, but I'm gonna tell you for youth, be careful of the sizing, because some of the inflatables, like, it depends on how it really depends on how skinny your kid is. So Trevor's a bit of a string bean, and his inflatable, like, I have inflatables that are kind of hand-me-downs. I just change the cartridges out, but I didn't have him wear it for a while. Really look at the weight limit on those, because if you're a youth, I would prefer to see the one with the strap that goes up the crotch. You know what I'm talking about? Everyone's seen those, right?
Amen.
Because I'll tell you one of my worst stories with my son. We were fishing the Ottawa River, and it's a PFD story. And I have the cracked rib from this event. So Trevor was 2 years old, maybe 2.5. He was messing around in the live well in my buddy's boat, and he had a big long net. And he has this long handled net in a live well, and I'm up on the front deck of my buddy's Crestliner, actually Heather's cousin Al. And so literally Trevor walked backwards to try and get the net, and he actually hit the gunnel up on the front deck of the boat, and he went into the Ottawa River. Okay, now it wasn't flowing where we were, but it was like end of May, early June. It was cold. So he goes in. He's wearing his PFD. He's all zipped up. So I drop my rod, and I just, instinct, I just lunged forward, and as I landed on the boat cleat, right on my chest, and I still have I have a little crack there in the rib.
You have a little Trevor. That's a little Trevor.
Yeah, it's a little Trevor right here. Hurts me. It hurts. But I grabbed him. I just grabbed him like a kitten, right? And I just put him. Now he had his PFD on with his strap up through the crotch. So I just picked him right up, set him down, and he threw up a couple times. He took some good water, and he went under, and he bobbed up like a buoy, like buoying right up. Grabbed him, put him down, and he was fine. In fact, I was white as a ghost. We were staying at Heather's uncle's and aunt's place, just like maybe a 5-minute drive. So after this happened, we're done fishing. I wrapped Trevor in my raincoat, and it was a sunny day. Put him in the raincoat, put him in Al's truck. We drive over to where Heather is, and I walk up to the house, and I'm pale. I am pale. Like I am nauseous about this. And Heather looks at me and she says, he has PFD on. He's fine. Like she was all chill about it, and I was near death. But she's right. He had his PFD on, and our kids always wear their PFD. If he wouldn't have had his PFD on, I don't know if he'd still be here, because he went under, took in water in his lungs.
So I
vomited when I brought him up.
Victoria is asking, are there PFD specific to flowing river water? I hope this explains to you the importance of making sure that you have that flotation piece at the back of your head, so that when you do fall in the water, you fall upright, and it automatically twists you around, whether you're an adult or a young child. And making sure, as Jason has so eloquently suggested and illustrated, is that you have that crotch strap that goes up, so that for whatever reason, once you're wet, it doesn't slide off you, but it holds snug to the frame of the body.
Yeah. So there aren't one specific for flowing water, Victoria, but really though, if it's young kids, like the ones with the strap, the ones with the little pad in the back, it does help to right you. Now a PFD. So there's PFDs and there's life jackets. So a life jacket is like a keyhole style life jacket that goes on the front of you. And when you hit the river or the lake, you float upright and it keeps your head up. Okay. A PFD, which is even an inflatable, is considered a PFD.
Yeah.
There are a couple high-end ones now that are considered life jackets, but they don't always right you. You tend to still roll with them. And so PFDs are great for keeping you afloat, but they don't keep your head up. But the ones with the kids have the little pad in the back, which helps keep their head straight. And there's a holy shit handle on the pad, so you can grab your kid when he falls in the Ottawa River.
Yeah.
Okay. So that handle, like, that's what's nice about having that jacket. You can grab them and pull them up. So
that's a good question that Richard asks. What age can you use those inflatable PFDs?
Well, it's kind of like the car seat rule. If anyone's had kids and you have the discussion about when the kids shouldn't be in the car seat anymore,
yeah.
And if there's been anything in life that spouses will fight more, it's about when kids should not be in the car seat anymore. Because there's like 3 different conditions to solve.
Amen.
And you might as well get out your magic 8-ball and figure it out that way, because there's no way to know which way they're out of. If Heather hears this, there's just be throwing daggers through the ceiling here in the basement. I believe the biggest one for me is weight, because I actually work with people who are 100 pounds on a wet day. And so for them, you know, it is a weight thing. I think weight is more important than age, because weight is what fills out the PFD. Age doesn't. You could be a real skinny 16-year-old possibly, or you could be a real, you know, husky 12-year-old. It's weight. I think weight is really important when you're sizing up a PFD. But again, if it says for inflatables under 16, maybe that's part of that is because you have to be like mentally competent enough. I'm not saying all 16-year-olds are, because I probably wasn't when I was 16, but you have to know how to operate this thing. Okay. Yeah. You know, and because even the ones with the Alka-Seltzer tablet that dissolves, there still is a manual override that you can pull to pop that pin. So that's probably, Richard, that's probably why they have that in there for an age restriction, because of the, I don't know. I don't want to call it mental competence, but you know, but I think explaining to anybody, like anyone who I give one to, I explain to them. In fact, Scotty, what we do at work is, and I say people should try this at home. If you have an inflatable PFD and you have an expired cartridge for said PFD, obviously you're going to buy a new cartridge for that PFD, right? Keep the old cartridge, fire it off, know what it feels like. Has anyone seen Tommy Boy, Chris Farley on the airplane? Okay, if you have that PFD a little too tight, you will be looking like Chris Farley in the front of the plane, fat guy and a little PFD. That's what you're going to end up looking like, because you got to keep it a little bit loose.
Absolutely. You got to be able to breathe, because there's no point saving your life if you can't breathe.
That's right.
Victoria, I truly appreciate this comment, because it is something that as a parent myself, I vowed in my children, and I want to thank my sister and my mom, because in the summertime, they spent endless hours teaching my kids how to swim. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. The basics. You don't have to teach them how to save people necessarily when they're young. Keep their heads above water, making sure that they spend as little energy as possible, making sure their head is above water. That is by far the most important thing, next to wearing a PFD or life preserver.
Yeah, Victoria, like for me, my mom made me take swimming lessons until I took my bronze cross. I remember around here, I was working tobacco harvest. I was driving to work in the morning, hanging tobacco in the kilns to dry, and I still had to go to swimming lessons after work at 16, because my mom said, "You're getting your bronze cross. It's going to happen."
Yeah,
and I did. And even you know, I keep using my family as an example here, and I'm not trying to hang him under the bus, but you know, Trevor had a real fear of water when he was really young. He didn't like water. Didn't like jumping in. Didn't like diving in the water. And, you know, at certain levels of swimming, Scotty, you got to be able to jump off the side and go underwater. And he did not like, we're talking, he's 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I told him, if you don't do that, you're not going fishing with Dad, because if you can't swim, you don't fish. That's the rule in the house. He swims like a fish now. But
well, and true, and I don't want to criticize other parents by any means by saying this, but I remember being at a cottage at one particular story. I remember back when my 3 kids were young, and I remember parents like literally running around like water bugs themselves, making sure that Johnny wasn't too deep. And I think we were in a back bay, much like Wasaga, where you literally have to walk out a mile before you're waist deep. And these parents were just horrified. And I understand if parents have the equal fear as the children, then yeah, I don't know who's going to have fun, because that weekend in particular, no one was having fun because these parents were exhausted right after the kids. And the whole time they're looking at me and saying, are you not worried? No, because I taught them how to swim. Like they're fine. They got life on. Like I'm not fearful. No.
And I see Sean says here, like, he's not a strong swimmer, but he knows how to swim. That's it. You don't have to be a marathon swimmer here.
Amen.
Just you know what? I always tell my staff this, and I tell my kids this all the time. Water will take your life. Respect the water.
Yeah. So
wear your safety gear. Know how to swim. Don't go out on rough days. Like, just respect water, because water will take your life. We love water. If I swear I should have webbed toes. Maybe I do. I won't tell. Like, I spend so much time in the water. I love being in the water, on the water, whatever. But it's so important to not fear the water. And I don't love swimming. Like, we go to the cottage, man, and the kids will swim all day. Dude, I'm happy just sitting on the dock watching them swim and having a beer. Like, I don't love swim. I do, maybe because I swim at work all the time. Like, at work, I'm always out in the swamp. I'm covered in vegetation and mud. Like, I'm constantly, literally, I've swam through marshes setting nets. Like, I've done it. So on my spare time, it's like, I don't want to go swim in a bunch of lily pads at the cottage, but the kids love it, right? And it's just so important to respect the water. Yeah, good point, Bill. Like, panic is a real danger with water, and kids need to, I'm that uncle that when we go to the pool, like, I will just shove kids in the pool. Like, I'm that moron uncle that everyone thinks I'm kind of funny, but I'm kind of not.
Yeah.
Like, the kids think I'm great, but some of the other parents think I'm a jerk. But I don't want any of the kids in our family scared of water, and they aren't. They all swim really well. And a lot of that I owe to my mom, because all her grandkids, just like she pushed us to swim, all her grandkids are swimming. And to this day, my mom will pay for their swimming lessons. Like, and she's so stubborn. Don't try and tell her you'll pay. She's paying, like, because she wants to make sure her grandkids can swim, especially ones that like fishing, like this guy over here.
There you
go. She will make sure he swims. So,
Victoria, it brings up a funny thing that I know sometimes it's been a long time joke, and I don't mean any disrespect to our folks out in Newfoundland, but we always said, like, you guys are surrounded by water. How is it that you don't know how to swim? And unfortunately, Victoria has dispelled that, because she learned in the Atlantic. Because most times I get the awkward look from most Newfies and say, well, where exactly would you like me to learn how to swim, Scott? In the Atlantic, where there's icebergs that flow through and it's barely above freezing? Like, where exactly would you like me to learn how to swim? So,
and hey, man, some of us are floaters, some of us are sinkers. Like, I've actually, so part of my teaching with electrofishing years ago with the ministry was I would instruct the pool session, and I would make people swim with their clothes on. And I would tell people, like, okay, we go to like the pool in Huntsville, like we'd be up at Dorset at the Frost Center. Yeah, we'd make biologists and technicians go into the Frost Center pool. We'd say, okay, swim. And I'd try and get them to convince, are you a floater or are you a sinker? So when it comes to my kids, Stephanie, she's a floater. She'll float on her back. She's like spitting water in the air. Like, she floats, no problem. Trevor, even though he's a skinny guy, he sinks. Yeah. He's a sinker. And everyone's different. So learning to swim in the ocean is also different, because salt water makes you more buoyant, right?
Absolutely.
And fresh water. So all this is different. I'll finish off with this. I'm taking so long tonight, but And then there's cold water, which we're still in cold water time right now. Cold water is defined as anything 10 degrees Celsius or colder. Okay. And one time we were on the Bay of Quinte, and I was wearing my flotation suit, and we were walleye trolling late in November. And I was with a buddy is a very confident individual, if you know the kind of person I'm talking about. And he was making fun of my floater suit. And he said to me, he says, I bet you I can swim to shore from here. I go, really? And we were like, half a mile, like we were down in Adolphus Reach, right? Trolling. We got planer boards out, and it was a calm day, and it was kind of nice. Like it was like 6 degrees out, but the water temperature was like 38, 40 degrees. I said, I'll give you $1,000 right now if you can swim to shore. But if you can't, you owe me $1,000. And he thought about it. He never did it. Because he knew. He goes, I bet you're right. I go, I know I'm right. You'll never make it. I'd have to pull your 250-pound carcass out of the lake with the big net we have. Like I knew he wouldn't make it. It'd be the easy. I told him it's the easiest $1,000 I'm ever going to make. Go ahead. I'll pull you back in. But he wouldn't do it.
Do not try that at home. And Bill has put up here, being a strong swimmer will change your life. However, some of the stuff that I've seen Bill do, swimming down to fetch phones and going from hole to hole, I don't recommend doing that either. But absolutely, being a strong swimmer can save your life, can save someone else's life. So it's good advice to heed.
Absolutely.
So now, in closing,
okay,
as we started, what are you looking forward to most when it comes to targeting species? As you said, or you noted that the steelhead are running. Is it suckers? Yeah. Is it walleye? Is it the steelhead? What are you looking forward to first?
Oh man, I don't know yet. I got to really kind of regroup here. I'm still trying ice fishing stuff. I got to put stuff away.
Catfish.
Oh, catfish. So catfish. Yeah.
We first got to get the cut bait, right? So I'm assuming you're gonna go after some creek chub and some suckers.
Yeah, we're gonna start loading up on some cut bait. We're gonna work on some suckers, and I'll share some stuff at another Monday Night Live. We're gonna talk about suckers, and we'll do a little. Actually, I'll put together a little PowerPoint. And we'll talk about that because there's actually some restrictions in Ontario on sucker for bait that we should address collectively. But honestly, Scotty, I'm fishing for whatever. A couple tips I'll give to people though. And Jim talked about this today. We're getting into spring. Water temperature is important. So fish the warmest water you can find.
Yeah.
If you're on a lake, fish the western shore or the northern shore the most. They get the most sun exposure. So that's a good tip. And in rivers, try and fish some slower water if you're fishing in current, because that's where fish can rest a little bit and warm up a little bit. But there's so much to fish for right now. I'm not sure where to start, but we'll figure something out. I bet you we'll be sucker fishing before the next Monday Night Live. I'm gonna get
on, buddy. Well, we look forward to it, Jay. As always, thanks so much for bringing this to us and all the info, and of course, all of your family picks and involvement in the Winter Fish Fest. You made us CFN proud, my friend.
Hey, thanks CFN for tuning in, and thanks for all you guys do in the background, man. There's a lot of people that make this machine run. So kudos to everyone back there helping out. I'm just here ad-libbing on Monday nights, which I did tonight. I don't even know if I talked about half the stuff I want to talk about, but it was a great conversation. It was a great conversation, but these are the wheels that are always spinning up here, man. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.
All right, my friend, you take care of yourself. All right, before we bring in our buddy Mike Consul, who only has a few minutes for us, it is the eve of Trout Tuesday. So here's a look back at some of the incredible trout catches from you CFNers in the Winter Fish Fest.
Bill from Sask Fish Hunters here. Stay safe, CFN. We got a nice lake trout here at Cold Lake, we are in Saskatchewan today.
Stay safe, CFN.
All right. Randy with the brook trout for a ballot. Stay safe, be responsible, CFN.
What'd you catch?
Lake trout.
And what's the code?
Stay safe, be responsible.
Yeah.
CFN.
Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I
One more for the morning already. Getting a little bit bigger. Stay safe, CFN. Back down. Safe flight release. Lovely.
Be safe and responsible. This is the Winter Fish Fest. I got a rainbow trout submission, and I'm fishing in Zone 14 on Lake Huron, and we're gonna put this guy back. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, baby.
So from Worthington, I'm in Jumping Caribou Lake in Temagami, Ontario. Caught a nice lake trout.
What team are you on? What team are you on?
The team is Ravenscroft Cottages. Stay safe, CFN Fish Off.
Woo!
Yeah.
Dalton Landry from Sass Fish Hunters. Got a little lake trout entry. Stay safe, CFN.
Michael.
Always makes me smile.
Right? Doesn't it, man? Like, as I said, and there's even more to come. I'd like to do a tribute video, but unfortunately, I feel like as if we're going to offend too many people if I don't include them. So I don't know what to do. I'm torn, but I would like to have a look back because, as I said, some great entries. In a year, Mike, we weren't 100% sure if this was going to run or not because of COVID. To say that we are over the moon pleased with the turnout and participation would be an understatement.
For sure. Just want to let people know tomorrow we're going to do some prize giveaways on Tourney Tuesday, Scotty and I at 7 o'clock. So before that happens, you got to go to the CFN Fish Off Facebook page, and we got to give it up to Shao because he's been doing the majority of everything
absolutely
related to the Winter Fish Fest in terms of watching all the videos and putting stuff on the website and keeping people informed. So what he's going to do, he's going to put up some screenshots of all the ballots. You just got to confirm that my name is, all my fish are there. So if you go to cfnfishoff.com, you will see your name because all the entries are there. Now, if you think you should be in the trifecta draw because you have 3 species, make sure your name is on that trifecta list. Remember, we're manually doing this. There's human error. So check if your name is in the trifecta draw. Check if your name is in the kids draw. And just verify that all your entries are there. Because tomorrow is when we're going to do some draws. And you'll see there's no draw for largest fish. And wow, we'll show that tomorrow. If you haven't seen it, it is incredible. We thought the 40+ inch pike hands down was going to win. Oh my gosh.
Oh, we showed it already. And Bill's watching right now, so he's going to have to go back and watch it. But we did share it already, Mike. And what a fish. And not only was it an incredible catch, but a great story. You know, Bill took along a couple other CFNers, and it was a team effort. And because our legacy members decided to choose the largest fish as the winner of the March edition of our photo contest, the choice that Bill has made doesn't even include the fish. It includes a team effort, and it's a really cool picture, and it speaks to CFN and everything we're about.
Yeah, amazing. And some people here saying, hey, I just participated for fun. Don't even put my name on the wheel ballot. Thank you for that. It's easier if we put your name on the wheel ballot, but if your name shows up, like who was it? Like Christina said, we'll make sure to spin it again and get another prize winner. So I just want to say hi to Sean and Curtis and Sarah and Bill. And sorry if I'm missing anyone. I'm just going through some names. Christina, David, thanks for saying hi.
And Bill, you bring up a good point. I quit after that. It's funny because I'm sure a lot of people probably did. And I was really gunning for Bill to possibly succeed in catching something bigger than Dan's 44-inch pike. I know he came close with a couple burbot, but again, Bill and Scott deciding to do it on the last weekend and allowing everybody to stay in the mix, I think was also awesome.
Insane. So we had the biggest fish. We're still double checking on the smallest fish. There's been We got a couple entries. There was like some really small fish there. So we're just making sure and double checking. But tomorrow, if you want to see who the winners are, your names will be put into the draw. Join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock, where we will give away some prizes.
And we will be putting the prizes together tonight. So some of them are here and ready to go. Some of them we're still waiting for to show up. Namely Dynamite Plastics, who is going to do a lot of the kids' entries, which is really, really cool. But yes, and Mike, what I might suggest is if we can go at 8 o'clock, because I am a part of a workshop for the Muskies Odyssey from 7:30 to close to 8. So if we could run it at 8 o'clock, if that's okay with you.
Okay. 8 o'clock tomorrow, folks. Be there. And it's saying Sarah Jinkerson has the smallest fish at 2.75. I heard about that. I didn't see it, but I heard about it because people were saying, no, she beat me. Did she really beat me? I'm trying to find it. So,
and you know what else? I was really impressed. Mark Albeck was one. I forget who else caught some smelt with a hook. So there were some species that were caught that I never even thought you could target with a hook. So I learned quite a bit. Our CFNers taught me a few things, which was really cool. But yeah, some interesting species of fish. But as I said, at the outset, Mike, I can't thank the families enough for getting their kids out and participating as a family. And a big shout out again to the Lowen family, who managed to get how many generations out fishing?
David saying, I can't believe that perch is smaller than my smelt.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely.
So, thanks, everyone. Once we give out these prizes and spin the wheel, that will close the Winter Fish Fest. But then the big tournament, the thing that we've all been waiting for, is the Spring Fish Off. So keep on the lookout for that. Date has not been set because of society, because of COVID and a couple other features, but it will be in the spring, and it will be a later date than normal. What we do want to make sure is that every province has their season open so that it is fair across the board, which means we got to wait till all the Western provinces are open. We're just double checking what those dates are.
Absolutely. And I think based on our segment with Jason Barnucz, so everyone, the 27 of you that are watching, and I know Victoria, you're out in Alberta. We've got folks from Saskatchewan. Cliff was on here from BC and Alberta. Bill Allen's from Alberta. What would be really cool is at some point, I'm not sure how we're going to do it. Maybe I'll just put up the provincial logo. But if there is an app, an electronic means for people to find out the zones and the regulations for that province, that would be extremely handy. If you are from Ontario, everybody knows where to go to on the OMM and R to find out the regs and what have you. You can Google search it, absolutely. But if we could identify with the actual apps, it would not only help our participants, but it would also help our judges as well. So not sure how we're going to do that, but I see that based on some of the questions and comments that were made that we probably need to do that.
Yeah. So just want to say good night, everyone. Christina's asking if I have not been fishing in 2021.
No.
I have yet to wet a line, but I can say that after this week, everything involving the CFN Fish Off TV show is done. Oh my gosh, I get my life back, which means it is time to fish. So we'll be filming some new videos to help out those new anglers who are part of the Spring Fish Off. So stay tuned and wait for the release date. And there's some new twists and rules that we have never done before. So for those who have been part of the Spring Fish Off, Canada's largest online multi-species tournament, there's some new twists and turns and things to keep it interesting. So stay tuned.
Amen. Can't thank you enough for your efforts, you and Shao, and of course you, especially Mike, for all you've done for the editing, Tunnel Island Media as well, for their involvement in making sure that it gets to the networks. But you especially, dude, you've done a heroic effort, a Herculean effort, as they say, but to make sure that that gets on. So
yeah, we'll show some more sneak peeks as it moves on, and just know that if you missed it on TV, then I believe this week is episode 11, and then episode 12, and then our final episode is episode 13, and then it goes back to episode 1. So if you missed it and you're just getting a Sportsman channel now, or for whatever reason you weren't able to PVR it or record it, know that it goes back to episode 1 so that you could tune in and check it out.
Right on. Mike, we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And thanks to everyone who showed up tonight and is still watching with us. We really appreciate you spending some time with us on a Monday, each Monday and every Monday from here going forward. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you sometime out on the water.
Good night, everybody.
Here is a word from our sponsor as we leave you tonight. As I said, stay safe, guys, and enjoy your week. All the best. Peace.